So for me, I've always been a singer and producer first, and I've been doing that for years, like since I was like a kid, I guess, singing, and then got into production as I got older. The DJing came when I actually had a break from singing, and I accidentally fell into DJing through DJing at a friend's leaving party, and then gradually I just started thinking, I could maybe do this as like a thing. So I started playing around, DJing mainly on vinyl at the start, and then kind of fell into the garage scene through the Shuffle and Swing Facebook group, and got to know loads of producers and DJs, and started making music with Medlar, and we started a project called NITEWORK. So that fused my passion for singing and DJing and dance music together. And then we were like, why don't we just try and like sing over the live set? So initially it was him playing and me singing separately. And then it just so happened one night before lockdown at the old 5 Miles venue in Tottenham, he couldn't make the gig, so I had to do it on my own. So I was like, right, am I gonna be able to do this? So then I just did a whole set solo with me singing over my mixing, and that's sort of where it really started off. Because I had a few garage tracks by then that I could do and then mix in with other songs. So it was, quite a natural progression, but I think in my heart, I'm always see myself as a singer first and then a DJ, but it's great to be able to like mix them together because it sort of, just blends everything I love into one. I think for me, as a vocalist foremost, I look at artists like Elizabeth Troy, who are such a seminal and important voice in dance music, especially garage, and how she's gone from like garage music, I've got a jungle track by Elizabeth Troy, like she's done so many different genres like house, but it's always her voice, and everyone always knows it's her. And for me, someone like that is what I aspire to be, and for someone to hear my voice and know it's me. So I guess with the production, because I've, over the years, touched on a few different genres within dance music, for me it's more about how the vocal sounds, to like merge them all together. Because I think as a producer and as an artist, you don't just want to be boxed into one genre as much as you might be known for that to start with. So for me, it was quite important to just let myself branch out and work with different producers and, work on my own productions and do as much as possible. But I think Elizabeth Troy, people like Elka, who are just like doing the whole live setup as well, and just really making that great mix of like, people know it as a DJ and as a producer equally, and I think that's really important for me. So people like that really inspire me. So I grew up in a big family of 7, and my dad is an amazing musician. So for me, music was just like I was born into it. Like we always had a piano, had a guitar, always had a record player. So I grew up with my dad playing piano, playing guitar, my mum plays guitar. My friends would call me and my family the Waltons, because we were always like singing and making bands and doing stuff like that together. So for me, it was like as natural as breathing to like write a song, to sing a song, to always be around music. And my dad's the kind of guy who could just pick up a guitar and play anything and get the whole crowd going. So for me, I think I really just took that into my life growing up. And I was writing songs. I remember writing songs when I was like 10 and 11 and getting my Casio keyboard out in the living room and doing a performance for the family. So I was always a diva. But I think, from doing that at a young age, it just becomes really natural to progress that into your later years, and then to start doing it in a more professional capacity, I suppose. So I think having a musical family really helped with that. So when I first started making electronic music, I had an old MacBook, which I think I still have because I never throw my old MacBooks out, and I was just using GarageBand, so I didn't have anything more complex at the time, so I just had a USB interface, GarageBand, and was just mainly recording vocals through that. And then eventually I moved on to Logic. So for me, I'm a Logic girly. I've got Ableton, but I haven't quite cracked it, and I feel like for me and vocals, Logic just works, and I've been using it for so many years. I just know how it goes, and I know the interface really well. So I think for the foreseeable future, I'm gonna keep up with Logic, but eventually I want to move on to Ableton and just be able to do both. I think for me, I feel like you're always learning. Like, you might get to a certain stage, but then you'll learn a whole other set of skills on the same software from another producer or another DJ. And for me, that's how I've harnessed my skills. Like, as much as I'm self-taught, it's people that I've worked with along the way that have taught me how to, like, for example, create a good vocal chain, or to like set up a drum loop and things like that. So I think my weakness is probably creating intricate beats, so I often get help with that, and I'll just start a track quite simply in like a demo form and then work with a producer to, you know, sort of put some shine on it. But I always like to come up with the initial ideas to start with. But vocally as well, I think for me it was really important to always make my vocal sound good enough to just send to someone and be able to use in the track. So I think vocal production, which isn't something that everyone does, was always really important for me to learn. But I definitely think I'm always picking up new skills and learning more from people as I go along, for sure. I think for me, like, just being able to use better microphones, just better advancements in stuff like Logic as a software, like being able to make better sounds just from your home and not needing like a big studio setup and having like sound banks with plugins that just make stuff sound like you're using like real synths, and knowing that you can make all of that just from your computer. I think it just makes it way more accessible for, you know, someone like me that can't afford a studio and loads of gear, but I could still essentially make a really huge dance track, or, you know, any kind of track from my bedroom or my living room. But yeah, I think definitely the vocal side of it, just being able to make those sound really amazing from home and not have to use a really expensive microphone and stuff. And just like harness what the software's enabling me to do really helps. I mean, for me, my musical history is very varied. So like before I was like deeply entrenched in electronic music, I was in a punk band, and then following that I had a sort of soulful R&B project called Only Girl, and then I came to dance music. But for me, it all like merges into one, and I think as a musician and an artist, it's really important for me to take influence from all the genres that I love, whether it's punk, R&B, soul music, dance music, and I think I always draw a lot of parallels between that. So I think for me, my songwriting, I was listening back actually to stuff I wrote like 10 years ago, and some of it I'm like, yeah, that's great, and other parts of it I'm like really critical of it and like, oh, that's not, I can see where I wasn't quite as good a songwriter as I am now. But I think, you know, as I said before, you're always improving, you can always be better, and you might write the most amazing song of your career tomorrow, but the next day you might write a total dud. So I think the experience it gives you is like knowing when to be subjective of your own work and know when you've written something good and know when something could be better and stronger. But I'd say with the dance music that I make now, for me, I like to think that my signature sort of style that people might recognise in my songs is just getting that hook and like getting that earworm that just sticks in your head and like, you know, really stays with you. So I always, when I write songs, I always think of myself being in the crowd listening and being like, what do I want to hear? What's going to draw me into a track and be something really emotive and like relatable that I want to write about. I think when I look back at my musical journey, it's almost like a diary of like points in my life that I was going through, whether it was like coming out of a bad relationship, just like some trauma I was going through, just something I wanted to write about that made me happy, like falling in love. And it's really interesting, I was listening to some old music today that I wrote when I was like 21, and I was like, God, that's when that happened. And it's like pointers that you have marked in your life through these songs, and like it's actually it's very nostalgic in a way because it's like a musical diary. And definitely with when I started writing dance music, the first EP I did on Time Is Now came out sort of after lockdown, and all of those songs were about like guys treating me badly during lockdown and like, you know, having my heart broken for the first time again in a long time. So I definitely think you go through eras and, you know, journeys with your music where you're just writing about a particular thing that's happened, because that's the outlet and the sort of cathartic therapy that you need as a musician to like get the emotion out. And you know, if you're feeling a bit like dark and sort of angry, like you might write some breaksy like jungle, like harder stuff. And then like in the summer, like in the last few months, I've just really wanted to write really upbeat, euphoric garage and house and like 90s dance music. So I definitely think the seasons and, you know, the emotions of what you're going through at the time in your life definitely affect your music, and I can see that really clearly with like the music that I've released. Yeah, so when I first started doing the NITEWORK project with Medlar, he was supporting Crazy P at like, I think it was like Brixton, or it was a big venue in Brixton, and he sent me a video of him playing one of our songs like to this massive crowd, and I was just like, oh my god, like, because I think I'd never experienced that before in the musical projects I'd done, because dance music is so different, and it, you know, you can just get your music played to such a wide audience by someone just DJing your tune out, and I just remember like Instagramming it, and I was like, oh my god, I've made it, this is amazing. And then also, you know, when I've had support from like Jaguar and Radio 1 introducing dance, that's always been incredible, because I remember the first time my stuff got played, it just feels like they really like want to support and like champion artists like me who are like just coming through. So it's always, yeah, it's always like a kind of cool feeling, like as much as you get used to it, it's still always like really nice. Yeah, so I think some people know me for my garage releases, so in their head, you know, I think you naturally categorise people, like you're like, oh, they're a jungle DJ, they're a garage DJ. But I think with some of the releases I've done, you know, I've done some breaks and jungle and stuff as well, and a bit of house. I've always wanted to like make sure I wasn't just doing one genre. And as I am a person who has so many varied influences, like, you know, I loved it when Grab did like a sort of like post-punk EP. I was like, that's sick, because it's like, why should you let yourself be boxed into one category when you probably love so many different kinds of music? So for me, yeah, I think at the moment I feel like I'm writing a lot of like 90s dance music influence stuff, like harking back to like You Sure Do and you know, JX and Dreamer, Living Joy and stuff like that, because that's what I grew up with. But you know, today I was chatting to my mate about doing a punk band again and like writing some guitar music. So for me, I feel like I'll never box myself in, and I'll just do whatever I feel like at the time. And I think that's what you should give yourself, that freedom as an artist, and never think, oh, I have to make this music or this music. It's like, I'm always going to be an open book and just like go where the road takes me, I think. For anyone starting out in music production, I would say learn from your peers. Like, there's so many good DJ run production courses, like especially at Hub 16, they do some great ones. And you, like, I literally did a Ableton course, like one session with Bok Bok, and I was like, this is sick, because like, I'm a fan of his as well. So I feel stuff like that, I think it's really good, because you're learning from someone who's like in the scene, has been doing it for years, as like a, you know, successful DJ as well. But I think really it's just like, take your time, don't feel like you're gonna write the best song of your career the first time you start. And I think it can be quite frustrating, and for me, I still get frustrated when I'm trying to make a song. So I think it's like, be patient with yourself, but just believe in yourself as well, and don't try and get too many different opinions on the tracks you make, because ultimately you're the artist, you're trying to please yourself first and foremost. And if you believe in it, and it's, you know, an honest track that's true to you as your sound, then, you know, people either love it or they don't, and that's the beauty of it. I think community is really important, especially as a woman in dance music, because you feel that support of, you know, not just other women, but you just have like a group around you who can like, you know, inspire you and like push you to feel more confident in yourself, because I think confidence is what I really lacked when I started DJing, and that obviously just comes with time, from like playing out more and getting more experience with crowds and learning more skills and tricks on the mixers and stuff. But I think having a group of people around me that I got to know along the way, and we all started playing together, do radio together. Like, I've got my Team YB collective, which is me, Mixtress, Oh My Days and Faye, and we just met through a late night shopper live stream, got on really well, and then it turned into like us playing together, and just having those, it's like a little sisterhood, you know, and it's really amazing to have that support. And you do learn from them as well. Like, I've learned so much from watching my friends mix and just be like, oh, what are they doing? You know, and asking them questions and finding things out. So I think definitely having a community around you like that, and it makes it a nice thing as well. It's not competitive, it's not like you're rivaling with anyone, it's just like you're all in it together, and it becomes more of a scene, I think, and more of a wholesome scene than some people might think it is in like the dance scene in London.